What's up, y'all, and welcome back to Dad Needs to Talk. I am your host, Robert, and today wanted to talk about some manga with y'all. So, just real quick, before I get into all that, if you're new here or welcome back, make sure to like the video, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel, and all that fun stuff to help me out. And also, for those of you who do not know, Dad Needs to Talk, this YouTube channel is also part of a podcast that I have as well by the same name. So go check that out. It's available on all streaming services. Now, today, I'm very excited to do this video because it's something this is honestly like one of the first videos I planned on doing. But as you can see, this is like the 8th or so video. But it is what it is. But I wanted to just talk about my experience getting into physical manga. So, real quick, I want to give a quick shout out to my awesome wife for getting me this awesome Jujutsu Kaisen shirt for our anniversary. So, happy anniversary to you, my lovely wife. And, real quick. So, just a little bit of backstory on me getting into physical manga. So pretty much me starting to collect physical manga is honestly tied in with me starting to do the podcast, because for a long time, so I've been a manga reader for many, many years, probably like 15 plus years at this point, since I was in high school. So definitely been reading manga digitally and online for many years. And honestly, I didn't really ever see the appeal of physical manga. But when I started doing this podcast, I ended up deciding to give it a shot. And the first two things that I ever bought, or actually the very first thing I ever bought, was this, which, let me pull it off the shelf real quick. It is 20th Century Boys Perfect Edition Volume 1. Now, this series, for those of y'all that might have heard of another series called Monster, is made by the same creator who did Monster. So, 20th Century Boys, it's a manga series that I had always heard so many great things about over the years, and I tried reading it online a couple of times over the last couple of years, but I don't know why, for whatever reason, I just, I would always get like a little bit into the first chapter, and then eventually I would just drop off. Well, I decided, I was like, you know what? I'm going to physically buy it as a way to kind of hold myself accountable. It's like, okay, hey, I have spent some actual money and this thing is physically in my space. So I need to at least give it at least an honest shot. It's like, hey, if I end up reading this and not liking it, so be it. But I wanted to give the series a fair shot, and it has become one of my favorite series now, and I'm only a couple volumes in. So, along with this, the other big one I ended up buying as well was Vinland Saga. Now, as you can see, this is book 5. So just like the 20th Century Boys Perfect Editions, the Vinland Saga books have 2 volumes in one. And so, real quick, just kind of explaining that. So, sometimes these are listed as perfect editions, like it is with this. Sometimes they're called omnibuses, or, there's a couple different terms that are used. But these things, you get a lot of bang for your buck. And honestly, it's kind of one of the, it ends up being a perk sometimes coming to a series late, either, when it's already finished and ended, or it's been out for a super long time, like 20th Century Boys. This came out, I think 90s, I think 90s, early 2000s, somewhere in there. So it's been around for a while, and it finished a long time ago. And so a lot of times, a lot of companies, when they're, after like a series has been out for a while, they'll reprint them, and instead of doing like these smaller individual volumes, they'll start doing, like multiples. One I for sure have my eyes on is Vagabond. because those perfect editions, they have like 3-in-1. So, and it's only like $20. So yeah, so a lot of times, like I said, you get a lot more bang for your buck with these. But back on point with Vinland Saga Book 5. So this ended up being the second series I ended up buying physically, or at least starting to buy physically, because I love the anime so much. And over the years since season 1 aired, I always heard like, yo, it just keeps on getting better and better and better. So I was like, you know what? This would be a perfect 1-2 combo of something that I haven't read or don't know much about, along with a series that I already kind of loved, at least like what I've experienced of it so far. And so, yeah. And so thus my manga collection began with those two series. And it has slowly grown over these few months because, for those who don't know, I've been doing this podcast stuff since March of this year. So it's March 2020 or March 2021. It is currently the end of July 2021. So 4 months in, and I've gotten a pretty decent collection, at least by my standards. Now, I am going to go through and show off like everything that I have so far, but just kind of wanted just to talk a little bit more behind, I guess, like my mindset, at least right now, of how I'm handling purchasing physical manga. So, first of all, I am kind of setting at least some type of cutoff, because for those of you who know, and for those who maybe don't know, whatever, as by the name of my channel, I'm a dad. I'm a father of 5. So don't have a whole bunch of space, at least like where I'm living currently. Hopefully in the next year or so, if we hopefully get to move, that'll change. But for right now, I was like, you know what? I need to do this in a smart way to where I'm not like, having 100 volumes of One Piece with nowhere to put them. So I kind of limited myself to series that I'm not already, or that I hadn't already been reading digitally. So stuff like My Hero Academia, Jujutsu Kaisen, One Piece, and a lot of series like that, especially like ones that have been going for 100 plus chapters already for years at this point. As of right now, I don't have any plans to physically collect those. Maybe somewhere down the line, but I was like, you know what? I'll collect series that, aren't easily available, because like 20th Century Boys and Vinland Saga, there's no legal source to read them online. And so that's kind of how I've tackled, doing my physical manga purchases. But before I start, another thing, just before I start showing off whatever, another thing that like immediately grasped me with buying physical manga is just, I guess for like a better term, just like the quality of them, the presentation, because a lot of these things have like some super, very awesome covers, and just like the feel of it. It might sound weird to say, but it's something about the feel of having it in your hands, just kind of like just gives it a whole different vibe. And so, I have definitely enjoyed evenings where, I'm just, sitting on my little dad chair in my room, or just snuggled up in my bed with one of these volumes in my hands. It's just been very awesome compared to, me, scrolling through on my phone screen, or even on my tablet. Now the tablet is a little bit better experience than my phone, but still, it's just something not the same about, flipping through the pages and stuff. But and also, a lot of times, like with a lot of the volumes and stuff as well, is there'll be extra information, extra little nuggets and stuff in there that I really enjoy, like not necessarily like author comments, but just like different things that the author has added to the material. And so yeah, so it's been super awesome. And another thing that I've been sticking to as well is I've been physically going out to stores and picking the manga up myself. Now, of course, a lot of the stuff, whatever, I could just, sit here at the house, order off of Amazon and be cool. But, and of course, I know everybody isn't lucky enough to be living in an area where that is, where they are physically available. But luckily, with me living up here in Dallas, Fort Worth, Texas area, there are tons and tons of comic book stores, manga shops, and stuff. So of course, you have your usual stuff like Barnes and Nobles, and there's a local comic book shop. I believe it's called Games X Comics or something that's here in my area as well as one that I've loved going to for years called long before I started collecting, was a Anime Pop up in Dallas, and then there's a Japanese store called Kinokuniya that there's like two or three of them up here in the DFW Metroplex. And so yeah, so that experience of actually going out and physically buying manga, it honestly, it has opened me up to so many new series. Some stuff that I've recognized. Oh yeah, I saw that there's an anime for this or an anime for that, or I've seen somebody talk about. But then there's been like so many other things where I'm like, whoa, what is this? I've never even seen of this. Don't see many people talking about it, and that has been very awesome for a discovery. Because like I said, I wouldn't get that experience if I just ordered, what I was looking for, and then just wait for it to ship to my house. Physically going out, like whenever I go out to the store, I'm usually there for a good long time because I know what I'm there to pick up or to look for. But in the meantime, I'm surfing through the shelves, checking around, stuff catching my attention, and I'm making a list. Like I have a very long list on my phone of series that I never even heard of or seen before, that I'm just like, okay, you know what? Over time, I'm gonna slowly start, collecting these and stuff. So yeah, so going on. So just to show off these series that I have so far, like I said, 20th Century Boys, I have Perfect Editions 1, 2, and 3. And I also, even though, I am nowhere near done with this series, because there are, if I remember correctly, I think there's 11 of these. So I have barely even scratched the surface. But something that I ended up picking up just because it was a rare find, I also picked up, there's a sequel series called 21st Century Boys. And so obviously I'm nowhere near ready to read this, but I was like, it was one of those like, hey, if you see it, buy it type of thing. So I went ahead and just picked that up because I'm like, you know what? I might not see this again anytime soon. So I'm going to go ahead and just buy it. So, and I guess just for a little bit of background on some of these series, I'm not going to do it try to go too long with it with a lot of these, but just to kind of explain a little bit of what this series is, or just kind of read the general synopsis. So 20th Century Boys, humanity, having faced extinction at the end of the 20th century, would not have entered the new millennium if it weren't for them. In 1969, during their youth, they created a symbol. In 1997, as the coming disaster slowly starts to unfold, that symbol returns. This is the story of a group of boys who try to save the world. And so this series kind of falls into kind of like a sci-fi thriller series. So like I said, if you have read Monster or watched Monster, same author, Naoki Urasawa, very good. Like I said, just something different than the usual shonen stuff, whatever that I kind of grew up reading a lot. So yeah, so that's one of them. And another series I picked up by the same author. This was just like a single volume series called Muji Rashu. And so for this one, I'm trying to remember. I know this one was also kind of like a psychological thriller or something of that sort. I can't remember like the synopsis 100%, but that's another one I picked up. Let's see. This one called Downfall by Ino Asano. So this one is about, so the synopsis of this one is, selling copies is the only thing that matters. So what if your manga series just ended and you have no idea how to start the next one? Your marriage is breaking up, Your pure love of manga has been destroyed by the cruel reality of the industry, and nothing seems to fill the sucking void inside of you. Find the secret combo for a new hit manga series, and everything will be okay, right? So yeah, so you can look at the cover of this and tell this is going to be a certain type of mood. So that's why this is still in the wrapping, because I'm like, I have to be in the right mindset in order to read this, just because I've heard from people that have read it. And yeah, it can be a little bit of an emotional roller coaster. So I'm kind of saving that one. Now, going back over Vinland Saga real quick. So I have book 5, 6, 7, and I also have 11. So once again, 11 was just one of those, like, you know what, I saw it and I buy it. So these 3, 5 through 7, these are the next arc that takes place after season 1. And so I believe it is chapter, let me just double check. Yeah, chapter 57, and then it ends at chapter 100. And actually, the next arc, which is called the farmland / slave arc, actually starts on chapter is 55, which is at the very end of the previous book. So yeah. So, and I guess just real quick, just for anybody that might be watching this, that's like, what the hell is Vinland Saga? So Vinland Saga is a Viking series, or a Viking manga series, where you follow the main character Thorfinn back when he was a kid. And so the basic premise of it is that they kind of lived a pretty chill, isolated life. You find out that his father, Thor's, was a legendary Viking back in the day, long before Thorfinn was born. But his father left that life to just kind of settle down and have a family. Well, one day, some people from his old group he was in basically came knocking, and he ends up having to go back. And so in the process, Thorfinn, basically in the process, something happens to the dad, and that kind of sets off Thorfinn on a journey of revenge for what happened to his dad. And it has been a awesome story, an awesome tale. I guess that would kind of fall more along the seinen genre. And I love it because it takes place over several years. Like, even just like season 1, if you've seen it, it's like 10 years of Thorfinn's life. And then this covers several more years. So yeah, so Vinland Saga, super awesome. Definitely one of my favorite anime and manga. So if you haven't seen it, watch it. If you haven't read it, pick it up. So next up, I have Smoking Parade. And so far I just have volume 1 and 3. So Smoking Parade is actually by the same creator who did Dead Man Wonderland. So that's one where I enjoy the anime. I want to go back and read the manga, because I know the anime cut out a whole bunch of stuff, and the manga is under, like, I think it's like 80 something chapters. So need to go back and read it. But for Smoking Parade, the synopsis of this is the main character, who is the redhead, Yoku has spent much of his young life caring for his wheelchair-bound sister, Mirai. But now the revolutionary new medical techniques developed by the Minatori Company have given Mirai not only a new pair of legs, but also her freedom. And perhaps something more. Rare but serious side effects may include mindless acts of extreme, grotesque violence. Enter the Jackalopes, an elite squad fighting to expose Minatori's secrets and rescue its victims. But even if Yoku joins the mercenaries, can anything be done to save his sister? So this one, I've read the first volume and it was solid. Kind of took a little bit before it caught my attention, but the art of it looks really good. And one thing that like really caught my attention with this series was the volume covers. Like, I've seen these as well as like some of the later volumes, and like the volume covers look fantastic. So kind of one reason why I wanted to get it. But yeah, that's Smoking Parade. Next up, this is kind of a newer series called Zom 100, or Zombie 100, but it's a Zom 100 Bucket List of the Dead. So I have volume 1 and volume 2 of this. So the synopsis for this is, after spending years toiling away for a soul-crushing company, Akira's life has lost its luster. But when a zombie apocalypse ravages his town, it gives him the push he needs to live for himself. Now Akira's on a mission to complete all 100 items on his bucket list before he, well, kicks the bucket. In a trash-filled apartment, 24-year-old Akira Tendo watches a zombie movie with lifeless, envious eyes. After spending 3 hard years at a exploitative corporation in Japan, his spirit is broken. He can't even muster the courage to confess his feelings to his beautiful co-worker, Otori. Then one morning, he stumbles upon his landlord eating lunch, which happens to be another tenant. The whole city swarming with zombies, and even though he's running from impending doom, Akira has never felt more alive. So yeah, so this is, like I said, it's a newer series, one that I've heard a lot of good things about. So I'm excited to get to this when I can. And just kind of trucking along through some of these other ones. Beaststars, I got volume 1 of that. My wife got me that for Father's Day, along with Way of the House Husband, volume 1. And I'm very excited for this because I've heard so many good things about this. It's about a former Yakuza guy that gave up that life to be a house husband. And then these two are a couple of some smaller single volume series. This one is called How Many Light Years Till Babylon. So this is a little fun one I wanted to give a try. Once again, like I said, just trying new stuff. And then this one is called Hard-Boiled Stories from the Cat Bar. So from the little bit I glanced at this, whatever, it's basically about a cat bar where a lot of like assassins and hitmen meet up to hang out. So yeah, so that is more or less, because I don't think I'm missing anything. Yeah, I think that's more or less everything that I've collected so far. Like I said, it has been very awesome and a very addicting and expensive, because you start noticing this stuff starts adding up quickly money wise. But like I said, it has brought me so much joy and has expanded my horizon of manga so wide in these few months that I've been doing this. And like I said, me doing the podcast has kind of just like given me extra, incentive of like picking up even more stuff, because I'm like, well, you know what? Let me pick this up because I can talk about it on the podcast. So yeah, that's more or less it. And speaking of the podcast, if you're interested, I have done podcast read-throughs so far of of 20th Century Boys 1 and 2. I've done one for Vinland Saga 5, 6, 7. And then I did some stuff for actually I don't want to talk about that one. But I've done some other ones, and with all this plus more, I have a lot more stuff coming up. But yeah, just let me know in the comments below if you are also a physical manga collector. If you are, let me know how many do you have in your collection. Like I said, I'm still a babe. I'm just new learning this stuff or coming to this game about this stuff. But like I said, it has been very awesome getting to do this and starting my little collection. And yeah, if there's any other series that maybe, from my collection that looks interesting that you might want to, check out, let me know. Same thing, if y'all might have any recommendations for me, drop them in the comments below. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this video. As always, like I said at the top, like, comment, and subscribe. And also go to my website, check out dadneedstotalk.com, where you can find my podcast and everything else that I do. And yeah, so I hope everybody out there has an awesome day, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye and peace.